Hi, everybody. Doug and Alea here for another session. And in this session, we got to talking this morning about suffering and what causes suffering. So we thought we might spend a few minutes just talking about the whole concept of self-awareness and suffering and how to stop suffering by becoming self-aware. Alea, this is really your bailiwick. So why don't you kick it off and I'll just chime in if I have any pearls of wisdom that bubble up into my little brain.
Perfect. And then also, Doug, just kind of think about what are the things that inner practices that you've done that has helped you cultivate a level of self-awareness, because you have a lot more self-awareness than you did 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
So I was actually just doing a group session this morning and we were talking about self-awareness, and I had an insight, which I've known, but they kind of keep percolating back up. And it's the insight that we have to cultivate a certain level of self-love before we are willing to cultivate awareness. Because if we cultivate self-awareness without self-love, then we immediately start just going into a place of shame because we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that, or I just felt that way. And we could crush ourselves. So sometimes in our spiritual journey, growth and evolution, we don't cultivate enough self-love before we cultivate awareness. And so now you have the awareness without the self-love, and then you go into self-loathing. And so just know that hand in hand, awareness and self-love. Every single day, you could do a practice of cultivating more self-love inside yourself. And I'll give you a very specific practical piece on that, because everybody says, oh, just love yourself. Well, how? So we'll bring in a practice of the self-love. But once you've attained a certain amount of self-love inside yourself, then the awareness starts to bloom and skyrocket in a really beautiful, effortless way. You don't have to effort it every single day. So we're going to want to effort the self-love, and then the awareness is the bloom. And then you can be like, oh, well, look at how I was just really snappy with that person. And how do I really want to be with that person? Then we engage free will and choice once we have the self-love coupled with the awareness, coupled with free will and choice. So what is a super simple practice to help you cultivate self-love so that your awareness can bloom? You take a deep breath in, pull yourself inside, and think of one quality that you value. It might be integrity, it might be kindness. You might not always be in integrity, you might not always be kind, you might not always be clear, but you value those things. And just feel into one quality that you value. And as you feel into that one quality that you value, explore the idea that you actually have that inside you, that we typically value that which we have attained. So in previous moments, you probably have been working on creating a thread, a stream, a vibration of this quality that flows in what I call the divine line, a river of light that flows up and down the front of the spine. And so as you hold your energy and awareness in your divine line and you feel into that quality, maybe it's peace or calm or clarity, you just say to yourself, I really value that quality that flows within me. Just that very simple practice is actually putting you into a state of greater self-love and self-worth. It also is increasing your ability to be more aware of your inner world. So you're holding your awareness inside, more awareness of the light or quality that flows within. And then there's one other practice for the awareness building. Start becoming more aware by simply asking yourself the question, how much awareness are you holding on the outer world, on other people? Do you have lots of sunglasses or lenses or eyes focused on everyone else in the outer world? Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or your friends, your family, what everybody else is doing. Well, they're happy. Well, they're succeeding. Well, they're better than I am. The moment you start holding the awareness external, now what you're doing is you're taking this precious resource of awareness and you're holding it externally and not on you. And so play with the idea that just for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes a day, you invite some energetic aspect of you to retrieve all of your lenses, your sunglasses, your eyes off of everyone and everything. And you bring your awareness deep into your core, into your own line, focusing entirely on the light that flows within you, that is lovely, that is beautiful, focusing on your inner world. And as you become more focused and aware of your inner world, your awareness blooms. The The more aware you are of your inner world, the more aware you are of your behavior, other people, what's truly being asked for, what their needs are, their priorities, how their priorities might be different than yours, and you have greater discernment. And life starts to get really lovely because you're able to see the hole before you fall in it. You don't stumble. You pause before you speak. You don't rip somebody's head off with your words because you paused, because you had the awareness to go, ooh, I just got triggered and I really want to react right now, but I'm not going to react because that would be not kind. And I value kindness because I have kindness flowing in my divine line. How could I react and respond from a place of kindness, even though I just got super triggered? All of that requires a tremendous amount of awareness, but the only way to build that is to hold the awareness inside, to value something that flows within you, that you love, that you value. Doug, any insights,
So
additions?
you asked me before you started talking about how I began to develop my self-awareness. It was not an easy, intuitive process until I figured it out. And then I figured out how to deconstruct it. So really, for me, the idea of self-awareness is being emotionally self-aware. If you can be aware of your emotions and name your emotions as you're experiencing them, that I think is the manifestation of good self-awareness. So if you're in a suffering state, for example, you could say to yourself, I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling embarrassment, humiliation. I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling disconnected. I'm sad. I'm distressed, and I'm upset. I'm anxious. I feel abandoned and unloved. So you see how I can take all of these components that would go into what we call suffering, psychological suffering, and deconstruct them into individual emotional components, and then start labeling them inside yourself as you feel them. So you might start off with a really broad idea, like I'm suffering, I'm in a lot of emotional pain, which is good. That's the first step of self-awareness. But underneath all of that emotional pain, there are many, many other emotions that exist. And in fact, if you need help with this, you can go online and get a list of emotions. There are a bunch of them out there. And you can just start looking at the kinds of emotions that you might be feeling, and then take a piece of paper and write out, this is what I'm feeling right now. And as you write down each emotion, pause on it for a second and say, what does that feel like? What is that experience, that unpleasant experience I'm having right now when I feel humiliated, or when I feel distressed, or when I feel unlovable or unloved, or I feel completely abandoned and all alone? These are all common experiences that we all have, but for each person, that internal experience is going to be a little different. And so you want to learn how to associate a specific sensation that you're experiencing with a word that describes that sensation with particularity. In technical terms, we call it emotional granularity. And so every time a wave of emotion comes through you and you're feeling shamed, or you're feeling like you're suffering, or you're upset, or you feel like you're worthless, you feel like, nobody loves you, and that everybody is criticizing you, and you're totally invisible, you just stop for a second and just say, I feel invisible. I don't feel heard. I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel supported. I feel disrespected. I don't feel like I'm being seen. I'm sad. I'm depressed, stressed. And just go through all these emotions and write them out. And what you will find is, over a period of weeks, and see, it doesn't take long, just a few weeks, you'll all of a sudden, when you start to feel this unpleasantness that we give the general words emotional suffering to, all of a sudden, it'll break down into very specific emotions. And that's when you can start really working on it, because as you label your emotions, you're reprogramming your brain. And as you reprogram your brain, a lot of these emotions get released and you no longer suffer from them.
So I just had a really interesting insight as you were doing that whole process. And I see that many people have an emotion and they immediately get reactive with their emotion. And this process that you're talking about helps you move from being reactive with your emotions to reflective with your emotions,
Exactly.
which then builds the awareness.
And I think the other thing the other big point here is whenever you feel an emotion, it's not just an emotion. There are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 emotions underneath it. And you're just giving it one word because you don't have the sufficient awareness to label all the minute, discrete different emotions that you're experiencing. And what you want to do is break down that big emotion that you feel into all its component parts. And you do that by just exploring, what am I feeling right now? And get out that list of emotions and work through it and say, what's it feel like to feel unappreciated? What's it feel like to be angry? What's it feel like to be annoyed? What's the difference between irritation
Keep going
and annoyance?
deeper, right? Just keep going deeper and deeper.
Just keep going deeper and try to feel the difference between what these different words represent inside yourself. And that's how you develop self-awareness. And it'll only take you a month to do it. If you did it every day for 4 weeks, by the end of the 4 weeks, you'd be 1,000% more self-aware than you are today. And a lot of your suffering will go away.
Well,
It's not
and
that hard.
No, and that ties in. I was just today working with a parent and we were talking about their child and labeling the emotions and teaching the child emotional granularity. And I said, when your child has more emotional granularity and all these words to describe its emotional experience, it increases its impulse control.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we don't have impulse control, it's because we don't have emotional granularity. So if you just fly off the hook and rip somebody's head off verbally, you don't have impulse control. It's because you don't have emotional granularity. Build the emotional granularity.
That's right. That's right. You know, in all my teaching, I always tell everybody we're 98% emotional and only 2% rational. We are not rational beings. We're emotional beings. So doesn't it make sense to spend time developing emotional mastery using the kinds of things that Alea and I are talking about?